I want to welcome all of you for coming on. One of the most important things as an entrepreneur is always working on yourself. You have to be the best version of yourself because you are the brand, right? As a real estate agent, you are the brand. People are hiring you. Yes, you may think you're attached to a certain brokerage or things like that, but it's you they're hiring. And so spending time working on your business, this counts as working on your business rather than just working in your business. You know what working in your business is: the signs, the lock boxes, the paperwork you push around, things like that. But working on your business, when you are the business, it is improving yourself. So I want to respect everybody's time for showing up on time. We're going to get started right away. Some housekeeping notes. Please keep your line muted if you can, please. We can keep this a nice, clean recording. If you have a question, throw it down in the chat box, or there's a little icon at the bottom of the Zoom that says reactions, and you can actually raise your hand. It'll pop you to the top, and we'll be able to call on you. You can unmute yourself. You can ask your question that way if you want. We've got some great panelists today. They're going to be talking about how to handle objections and also hold posture in a meeting. So we're going to be getting started right now. And Laura, I think we're going to start with you right away, right out of the gate. And so Laura is a superstar agent. She's been in real estate for decades now. She's counting in decades. You've got a bunch of us like that. Laura, I believe you're a lot like Stacey and I think you started your real estate business in the 1900s. Is that correct?
Yep. 1908 to be official.
1908. There we go. I like that. But that's awesome. Laura, you're out of the Chicago marketplace. You can tell everybody a little bit about yourself. But today we're going to hear your best tips, tricks, and hints on how to handle objections out in the real estate marketplace, and also hold posture in a meeting when you're in front of somebody face to face and things are tense. So take it away, Laura. Give everybody the goods.
Yeah, well, I've been an agent for 38 years, been to multiple different brokerages, had a ton of training through the years, have coached agents. So I love objections. They don't scare me. I tell everyone I'm the queen of spin. I just figure out when they say something, how I'm going to spin it around. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to have 2, 3, 4, 5 different things to say to every objection. So I try to keep that in my repertoire because one thing might not work. And so then you say something else, and then you say something else, and you spin it, and eventually you kind of wear them down. So I think that really helps a lot. And that's part of my queen of spin technique.
I love it. So take some common real estate objections that you might be hearing in the marketplace and counter them for some people. How about this right now? How about something like the rates, right? The rates are going crazy, right? The rates are super high. What would you say to somebody like that with all your real estate experience? What would you say? Because that's a big one right now.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know how long everyone's been on. So since I've been on for a long time, I would have a little different script. But if you haven't been on a long time, I would say probably something like, hey, I've been at as you say, 4 decades. I've seen the rates go up and go down and go up and go down. And that's just what they do. But prices are continuing to go up. And rates will eventually come back down at some point. No one has a crystal ball to say when. But when they do, you're already going to be in the house that probably now is appreciated. So there's never a better time to buy than now. And historically, rates have been as high as 9, 10, 11%. So really in the 7s is pretty much normal. This is normal. 3% was crazy. And then we do have a lot of lenders that will refi you for free if the rates do go down. So we've got that as an option. That would be one thing. Now, if you haven't been in a long time, you could say, hey, listen, historically rates have gone up and down. You don't have to say about it, but you can reference that this is just history because it's true. And history repeats itself. So really today, 7% is a normal rate.
I love that. I think there's a stat out there that says something like in the last 6 or 7 decades, the average rate has been almost 8.5% or something like that. Isn't that a true stat or something? So anything below 8.5, you're doing better than the average over what it's been. I remember when my parents, I think, did like credit card interest rates, like 16, 17%, something like that back in the day with the savings and loan scandals, right? In the 80s, something like that.
Yep. And then, with a lot of objection handling, and this is one of them that would work with this, it's that fear of loss is a greater motivator than opportunity to gain. I always love that saying. So fear of loss is a greater motivator than opportunity to gain. So if you give them the fear of, hey, prices are continuing to go up, If you wait till rates go down next year, they might be down, but then prices are going to be up another, who knows, 3, 4, 5, 6%. So if you're looking at a $300,000 house, it might be up another 10,000. And if you sat and pulled your yellow pad out the old fashioned way and did the math for them, or got on one of your buyer calculators and calculated the difference of, if you bought this house at this interest rate today, but next year it's going to cost you this much at this rate, look at the difference. If you give them hard facts like that on pen and paper, they really can't dispute it.
I love the math idea on that, Laura. That's really great for people to sit there and show them, like, here is how it works. And the great part about having the fixed rate like that, you mentioned it earlier, you can refi them. And I always throw in there, tell me what you think about this. I was throwing the fact, like, look, we're going to refi you to a lower rate, but also a shorter term. You're not going to pay on this house for 30 years, because we're going to start you off on a 30 to get you the lowest possible payment. Then we're going to refi you to a lower rate, but a similar payment, but a shorter term. What do you think of that?
Sure, absolutely. If they can afford to do that, it depends on the client who you're talking to, and what if they're a first time home buyer, it may not work as well. But with someone that's buying their second or third home or an investment property, that certainly would work.
I love that. How about you, Alex? Do you have anything to add on that as far as interest rate objections? If somebody's giving you an interest rate objection, or Stephanie, jump in there. That's a big one out there right now. What would you guys say to that?
I think the most important thing you need to focus on is when you're working with people is like finding people that actually need to move. So the people that are going to be the ones that are pushing back surrounding interest rates, or people that are towing the market. I think a lot of it has to do with the questions that you ask your clients as to why they're looking in the first place. So if a rate goes from 6.5 to 7, if you have to move and you're looking, why are you, like, you're not going to do something that you actually need to do. So like if you're pregnant and you need to move out of your house, you don't have enough space, or you want to switch school systems, or you have a death or a disease or something in your family that's changing, like lifestyle events is what we refer to them as. If it's those lifestyle events that are happening, I think it's understanding who your client is and why they wanted to move in the first place. And so typically what happens is a buyer wants to move, and they want to move when they know rates are 6.25 or 6.5 or 7, and then they tick up and they read all the pandemonium that's in the market and they panic and they change their mind. And I think the objection handling comes from the idea of understanding why they really want or need to move. So has something changed with the school systems that you're no longer interested in moving there? We had somebody yesterday that we've showed a handful of houses, and he's been up and down on interest rates, but then what he does is he levers the interest rates and then he loops in some other objection with the house. So yesterday I went back with him and I said, I'm going to go to the house with you. I'll walk through everything with you together, and we'll talk through this step by step. And I want you to tell me why you really don't want to do this. And next thing you know, it's, Alex, if you could get me out to this house with a contractor, I actually think we could make it work. So I think it's like, look, we work for these people. We work with them. We're working for them. It's our job to kind of wait out this process. And, as the amount of buyers and sellers that exist in the market right now, the last 3 years, it was easier to tell somebody, you know what, I'm probably not the agent for you because you don't know what you want, or you don't know where you're going, or you don't know what you're doing. And that was totally different. But now you have to work harder for the people that you have that are interested in working with you. So it takes a little more to do those things.
I love the answer on that. And for those of you who are joining a little bit later, we're talking today about overcoming objections. And so this is a interactive. This isn't a lecture here on this. So if anybody has any objections that they've heard in the marketplace that are common ones out there that you'd like to have the panel answer, if those of you who are out there have some good answers to some of these questions, we'd love to hear from you. Tips and tricks. We've got agents from all over the country on here with all different amounts of experience. And so we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. You can either throw your hand up in the little reactions down at the bottom, or you can type it in the chat box if you want. Stephanie Gilezan, you typed something in the chat box I'd like you to expand on that a little bit. We're going right now with the interest rate objection. People are worried about interest rates right now. What have you got?
Well, I like hitting it from the standpoint of, listen, everyone, I'm a double dipper. I like to take full-fledged advantage of how much I can save every single year in taxes. Who the heck wants to pay Uncle Sam more than what's necessary? So I get that this is a lifestyle buy, and the lifestyle right now is telling you interest rates are 7%, which sound horrible compared to 3%, you know, just 18 months ago. But here's the deal. Double dip, be a double dipper. That's how we win. I want you to pay the money for this house, pay the higher interest rate, and then laugh all the way to the bank when you get it on your tax write-off. That's what double dipping is all about. That's what us wealthy people do. So let's join the club. That's what I do. And it works every single time.
I love that.
Up to $1 million, because, you know, the interest write-off for mortgages on a personal residence is up to $1 million. So, you know, you got to be specific, but a lot of people don't even understand that. They're not looking at that perspective. And as soon as you associate it with yourself or someone else, they'll do it, because everybody joins a club. Very few people go do something alone. Make sense?
I love that. I love that. Anything anybody want to add to the interest rate objection they'd like to go? I've got another objection we're going to come to next. Anybody like to add something to the interest rate objection? And you can type objections that you would like to hear answers to down in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. Looks like Kim Campbell, you have something you'd like to offer on that. I'd love to hear it.
Man, we have one of the best coach and agent that is on the, I just want to bring him attention. Donnie Morrow, come on, give us some nuggets, man. Don't be hiding now.
How did I know you were going to do that? No, I think they're all hitting the nail on the head. I think the key point here, if I missed it because I'm dealing with something, is knowing your client. I love what Stephanie did, and I think that's the first time I've heard that. But I think the important part is knowing your client and knowing, are they a numbers person? Are they that emotional person that wants to be part of the club? So it's not just knowing 2 or 3 of these awesome objection handlers that everybody is putting out, but it's getting to know your client well enough to know which one to use with that person. I think that's the key, because so many agents, especially if they're not already high producers, are scared to ask the questions to know which objection handler is going to work for that client.
I love that answer. That's great, Donnie. Lots of experience behind that one. So I'm going to move on to the interest rate objection. I'm going to move on to one that's been around a little bit lately. With the real estate market being so hot, agents have been able to sell homes very quickly with multiple offers and things like that. Has anybody heard this one? Well, I think I'm just going to sell my house on my own. I don't need a realtor because it's going to sell without it, and I can save myself the commission. Who would like to jump on that one? Who wants to go first? Let's go in order. Laura, let's go with the same. Laura, you went first last time. How about that one? You got lots of experience. Somebody doesn't want to use a realtor because they think they can sell their house on their own. How do you hit that one?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many ways to spin that cat. One of the things I would say is, well, obviously the reason you want to sell your house yourself is to save the money. Is that correct? And they would, of course, say, yeah, well, yeah, of course, that's what I want to do. Well, why would a buyer shop by owner? Well, the buyer is shopping by owner because they know that you're not paying a commission. So they think they're going to get the house lower. So then they want to save money. So they'll deduct the commission off their offer to you because they know you're not paying a commission. So if you're selling it for lower and they're deducting the commission off the top, what did you really save? And then I shut up, because that's the best way to handle an objection, is shut up after you say it. Don't say a word, because the first person that speaks loses. So you have to be very quiet and let them answer that before you jump all over it. So that's a big key with objection handling and any type of a presentation, is say something and then be quiet and then let them answer. And then, if they come up with something else, there's a couple more ways to spin that, but that's one of them. I'm sure people have some others, and if they want to jump in, and then I'll come back in again.
Great. Love it. Alex, how about you? Something to add to that? Somebody doesn't want to use a realtor. They can do it better on their own without an agent.
Yeah, we do. So we have some folks on our team who do a lot with for sale by owners. And for us, it's patience and outlasting the process with them. I think the for sale by owner process, a lot of times you're walking in the door to something that's potentially vastly overpriced, and then to tack in a 6% commission, the financial side of that is pretty painful, and it provides quite a bit of sticker shock right up front. So what we do is we'll wait out the process and just try to provide items of value each step of the way. So we'll ask if people have all the proper paperwork and seller's disclosures and lead-based paint disclosures and things like that. But then also we'll offer to do things for them before we ask for their business and go straight into the objection handling. So once their house sits on the market for 7 days, 14 days, we've at that point provided some paperwork to them. We've done an open house for them at no charge. We've connected with them a bunch. We've tried to bring our own buyers through at that point. When you give and give and give like that, you get the privilege and the right to ask for something. So then you can start asking questions relative to the time that they've invested in this. So how many showings have you guys had on your property? We've only had this money. I have a hard time getting over there because of work. And when you ask those questions, they'll tell you what personal pain points that exist because they're the people that are doing the job. So typically, if you're a for sale by owner, you may have you may have a real job that you're doing, and this is secondary. So one thing you could ask them is, are you going to treat the biggest investment of your life as a secondary asset to the rest of your life because you don't want to pay somebody to do the job for you? Do you do your own dental work? Do you do your own medical work? No, you don't. Do you do your own legal work? No, you don't. And like Laura said, you let them answer the question and they kind of walk down that path where you want them to go.
I love that, Alex. I love the analogy with the legal system. You know, the legal system was technically created where a citizen could go and represent themselves in the court of law. But I love using that analogy and say, look, you could go into court on your own, but if you're up against somebody who has legal representation, which one do you think is going to win? You could invest all this time and stuff trying to research and do everything, but it ends up costing you money in the long run. I love that one, Alex. Let's go next from there. Let's go down to Donnie Morrow or Kim. How about you guys? What's somebody says, I don't need a realtor to sell my home. I can do it myself.
I think they already gave some good objection handlers for that. And I agree with Alex 100%. I always called it my last man standing theory. I haven't sold FSBO since 2018, but when I listed about 30 of them that year, I believe it's because I was just a person who didn't give up. And quite often it was after I had waited them out. I had stayed in touch with them. I'd given them tips, everything like Alex said. And they literally would call me back when they gave up and say, a bunch of agents called me, but you're the only one that's still checking in on me. Come list my house now.
Love it. Daniel Leeper, looks like you got your hand up. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo something about what I'm going to merge both of these points. So basically interest rates are high right now, but the market is hot, right? And what we've seen in our office is that oftentimes those create volatility on a transaction. So FSBOs get under contract for whatever terms they want, and those deals are just falling apart. And so if you keep showing up every day and be that assistant that Alex was you held the open houses, you provided the documentation. When that deal falls apart, who are they going to call? They're going to call you and talk to you about why it fell apart and what you can do to help them get the next deal under contract.
Great. I love that, Daniel. I love that. So anybody else want to add anything to this? I think I can do it by myself. Alex, you go for it.
I was just gonna echo a little further on Donnie's stuff with that, last man standing deal. I think so often we push and we don't understand when the right time to kind of go for that ask is. And we get impatient because we feel like, man, I've called you twice, I've called you 3 times, I've called you 4 times, and you're never going to list the property with me. But if you can have some of that ignorance to the idea of like, I'm just here to help you. I'm just here to help you. I just want to help you with this process. They're going to go, gosh, everybody else is all over me. And you just call and check in and you actually care. And that, from that last man standing perspective, people check the box when they go in and they get the commission breath, or they get the person that's a jerk that like tries to bulldoze them. Oh, you're overpriced. You're not paying a fee. It's never going to work for you. That's because those people need that fee. But the people that just keep showing up with the idea of, hey, I just want to help, man. How's it going for you? I used to send an email every single Monday to for sale by owners, and it said every single one said the exact same thing. How did your weekend go? Did you guys sell your house? I'm still diligently looking for a buyer for your house. I don't have one yet, but I do this, that, and the other to acquire them. And when I find one, you're my first phone call. And they always respond. Alex, we had an open house. 2 people came through. It didn't work out, but we appreciate you checking in. If you get a buyer, bring him through. And then everybody does the same thing. Our house pended. Alex, we're under contract. We're so glad. Awesome. I'm really happy for you guys. In the instance anything happens or you have questions throughout the process, call me. And then when the inspection goes sideways and the appraisal doesn't make it and the deal blows up because the buyer gets, tired of dealing with the seller, who do they call? the person that always was there.
I love it. That's great. Anybody want to, so for those of you getting on later, we're doing overcoming objections and holding posture in a meeting. If you have a good objection that you'd like to hear the panelists answer, or if you have any answers to any of these, we'd love to hear from you. You can raise your hand down at the bottom, hit the little reaction button, or you can type it in the chat box if you're afraid to speak out for some reason. You're a realtor. Of course, you're not afraid to speak. Laura, you're unmuted. You got something to add still to
Yeah. You know, another thing to bring up is the safety factor. Because it's real, you know, so I'll talk to people about that and say, well, you know, do you feel comfortable showing your home to someone that, you know, you don't know anything about them? At least with agents, we're getting them pre-approved, and we have ways like, you know, we have a particular app that we use to look people up to make sure, you know, for criminal and thing like that. But, you know, really the safety is a real thing. And when I talk to people about that, I do get a lot of positive reaction where they're like, yeah, I've been thinking about that. I'm a little bit worried. So, you know, it just, you want to chip away. I absolutely 100% agree with, you know, provide value. And that's what we do too. And we do things for them and provide things for free. And then in the conversation, just say, hey, you know, you guys haven't been feeling scared at all showing your house. It just puts a little something in the back of their mind. So I think just chipping away and adding little things in here and there and not coming full force at them on the first call.
Love it. I see Vicki Brooks Robinson, you're unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I think sometimes I go a little bit more blunt with them, and it's basically you get pretty much what you pay for. If you're trying to do it on your own, you're not going to get any response because you're not putting anything out there. How are you getting people to find you? How are you marketing your product? They usually mistaken real estate agents as being just all we want is the money, but we offer a huge service to them, and that's marketing their property so that people see them. So, I mean, my brokerage is worldwide. So when we market something, it's going worldwide. You don't know who is that per buyer. It could be someone from another country that may be interested in your property. They're going to see it when it hits my company website. So we offer that service of we can bring people to your home that are qualified, and like Laura said, the safety factor, and we're following through with everything for you. And then there is definitely the legal side. We're going to make sure that because we are licensed with the National Association of Realtors, we've got attorneys standing behind us that can protect you in case something goes sideways with your contracts. So there's a big service to it. It's not that we're just looking for that 2 or 3% commission on the back end.
Love it. Words of wisdom on that. Vicki, how long have you been in business?
21 years.
I was going to say, you got a couple decades of experience speaking. Hear that? You sound super young. You probably started when you were like 5 years old or something.
I did,
but,
yes. I brought my
got
children.
some experience in those words. I could hear them on there. So that's awesome. All right. Anybody want to add anything to this one still before we move on to another objection? And by the way, type your own or bring your own objections. We'd love to put the panelists to the test here to answer them. Anybody want to add to this? I'll do it myself because I don't need a realtor. Let's go to the next one. How about this one? Anybody ever heard of the Z word? Zillow says my house is worth. Hey, how about that one? Or XYZ. We'll go Laura, Alex to get started and move on from there. But Laura, Zillow says my house is worth.
Yeah, I like that one. That one's pretty easy. I mean, you know, I say to them, yeah, I've looked my house up on Zillow too. And here's what I can tell you. Zillow's never right. It's sometimes too high, sometimes it's too low, but it's really not right. It's a computer. It hasn't been in your house. It doesn't know what updates you've done or the condition of the interior. So, I mean, really, that's about it. That's about all I say about that. And I really never get pushback after that because they're like, yeah, you're right.
Oh, I like what you said after the last time too, is I just don't speak after that. I just sit there and stare at them.
Right.
First person to speak loses. That's great.
Sometimes it's uncomfortable. It's a point I really want to drive home to people. I mean, sometimes you're sitting there and I'm like looking around, I grab my water. I'm like, because they're thinking, you know, and you just have to bite your tongue and don't say a word.
I love it. Yeah. Taking the little drink right in between just lets them know I'm done talking. I'm not speaking and taking a drink. That's awesome. Nice little embedded command when you have it there. Well done on that. Alex, how about you? The Z word. People throw the Z word out there and they say my house is worth because of Z.
I ask people if they've ever checked out WebMD for their medical, like, hey, you don't feel good and you check your stuff, and then you look it up and you think you're gonna die in like 10 minutes. Typically you get like a lighthearted nature of it, and it's like, but seriously, have you ever like had a rash on your hand and it's heat rash, and you look and you're like, I mean, and I tell a story. When I was a kid, I looked up how to treat poison ivy, and it was like dump turpentine on it. So I went in the shower and I dumped it on my head and I was rubbing it all over my face. My eyes were closed, and it just got worse and spread all over my body. It's terrible. But I tell people that story, and or I ask that question and I share that with them, and they're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, they don't necessarily know what the real diagnostics are here. And then we educate on the fact that it, Zillow has an algorithm that's based on, square footage, lot size, neighborhood, but they don't actually, they've never been in your house, so they don't know what you have or what you don't have to go from there. So it's all just based on what a tax record will provide or anything like that. So that's how we typically handle that one.
So Alex, you point out something really important in there that this goes with everything in real estate, but definitely overcoming objections. Stories sell, facts tell. And I would say there's probably maybe a dozen objections out there that you're going to hear over and over in your real estate career. You just have to be able to answer them, and answer them smoothly and quickly. And as all of us are agents, we hate practicing scripts, right? I know I don't like, I spit when I hear the word scripts. I don't want to do that, but it is something important to know that there's common objections that you're going to hear throughout your career, and being able to answer them smoothly, quickly, and then pulling the Laura. We're just going to name it the Laura. Just be quiet. You're just going to stare them down after that, and not speak after that. Who else wants to add something to this? I see Stephanie on here. Donnie, if you're still on and want to jump in. Zillow tells me my house is worth, or any type of pricing objection on the house. What are some common objections you hear on that and that you'd like to throw out there? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh my goodness, this is my favorite. I always bring things back to myself because I think it's relatable. And this is a true statement. A few years back, Zillow said my house that I was in at the time was worth $883,000. I mean, guys, on any great day of the week, no matter how much fancy shit I put in that house was not worth more than $695. I mean, seriously, there's no way in the world it was ever worth that. And so I always start with those stories because it's relatable. Here I am, a professional, knowing and sharing those stories, but that's the whole thing. I mean, my parents even, are those type of people where, they have a house down in Florida and that's where they are most of the time. And they're like, oh my God, Zillow says our house is worth, and I'm like, oh my God, stop dreaming, guys. Come on. That is an algorithm. There's no way a computer is going to be able to tell you exactly what your home is worth. So, I mean, there's a million ways that you can object to that. But I mean, for the most part, they're extremely overinflated. But then also too, using that same argument back to what we were talking about the for sale by owners, well, everything on Zillow is fed to Zillow because of the multiple listing service, which meant all of those had realtors attached to them, which, oh, by the way, that's why your house isn't worth what you think, because you're not going to take that into consideration with what you're spending on commission, right? And I think Laura brought that up very well. So was that the question, Jim? Because I feel like I went over this.
It's a pricing question, right?
Yeah.
It could be they got it off Zillow or they got it from somewhere else, but everybody usually has a price in their head that they have an idea of what their house is worth. So yeah, it's great. Bringing it back to yourself. And Alex said that you said that. That's great. I love that. Go ahead.
I'll jump in here too. A common one involved with the pricing is like, my neighbor's house sold for this, or the house up the street sold for that. And look, when Jim, you had referenced the idea of stories, and the beautiful thing about our job is that these don't have to be your stories. And I think, if you're a newer agent or a younger agent and you're trying to figure out, you may not have the stories, steal the stories from today, steal the stories from yesterday, ask a mentor or somebody in the business. And so we tell stories every single day, every single Tuesday when we have our team sales meeting. We tell success and struggle stories that everyone has. And so then everybody has that story. So you can say, my team member, my team, I did this. So when you have those things, you can share those stories and they have validity behind them, because you can actually tell who the person who told that story was. But when you're getting the idea of like, hey, my neighbor's house sold for this, it's important to ask the questions and dig into, well, have you been in your neighbor's house? Do you know the square footage of your neighbor's house? Did you know the condition of the carpet in your neighbor's house? It looked like somebody died in there. That is why it was priced that way. That is why it was not priced that way. And you know, once you tell those stories, and then even one step further, look, your neighbor could be priced at 500,000. I just did this. A neighbor priced his house at 500,000. It was 350 square feet bigger than my listing that I was going to be taking on. I had told my client his house was worth 400. He's like, Alex, 100 grand. I said, just watch, please just trust me. We put his house in the market. We sold it for 455, fully guaranteed with perfect inspection terms. We had 10 offers. My buddy's wife's going crazy. I can't believe this. And that house that was listed at 500,000 is down to 490 and it's stuck. And everybody says that house is a total dump. It'll never sell.
I love it. I love it. So while we're on the pricing, I want to get to Kim's objection because that's going to be a big one. But while we're on the pricing, let's just kind of stay with this theme for 1 second. This is something we may start to see a little bit more of, depending on the market you're in right now. But we might start seeing having to ask listings for price reductions. Oh, everybody who's in for the last 10 years, who just got started in the last 10 years is like a price reduction. You don't get price reductions. Homes always go above list, don't they? And the answer is, in real estate markets, where it's not propped up by artificially low interest rates, prices do have to come down sometimes. So let's kind of go in sort of the order to get it going again, to get the mix going. We'll start with Laura again, but look, you got a listing and you need to ask for the dreaded price reduction. How do you make that call, and how do you handle that objection when they say, but I don't want to lower my price, or some form of that, Laura?
Well, in the old days, when we were doing listing agreements, we would try to set up pre-planned price reductions and say, okay, I think you're pricing it a little bit high. This is, where, the market's showing us it is. But if you want to start at this, within X amount of days, we need to reduce it by this. And then X amount of days, if it's not sold, reduce it by that. So setting up pre-planned price reductions just makes things so much easier. But let's say you didn't have that, didn't get it, couldn't get it. My words that I always use when I call them, because it's never me, I'm not telling them anything. I always say, the market is telling us we're priced a bit high. What would you like to do as we move forward? That's my line. And a lot of times it works really well, where they're like, well, what do you think? Well, I guess we need to bring it down. So it's not blaming it on me. And then sometimes you need to give evidence. You'll give some evidence of it and showing other price reductions or what things are really closing at, and then circling back around to what you originally told them in the listing presentation, so you might have to go a step further. But really using that line, I think, has just been so powerful and has worked extremely well.
Two pieces of absolute gold in there. Pre-planned price reductions. Stacey and I always called that cooperation equals control. We want the seller to know that we are cooperating with them, but so we would cooperate to a point, but actually that puts us in control then. And then having the pre-planned listing price reductions when their number they picked doesn't work out based on the data. And then the straw man argument. For people that you may want to study that a little bit if you don't understand what that is, but it's where you as the agent don't take ownership of the pricing. Use the straw man argument, which is the market says this, and that way you can't be the bad guy or bad lady in that case. I love it, Laura. Two pieces of gold there. People got it. Alex, what do you got? Oh, somebody else spoke up. Who was that spoke?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Jim, I think it's really important to protect their ego, especially certain sellers, but you really got to protect their ego because they don't want to be wrong. And if you came in at this and they think it's this and suddenly they're wrong, you don't want to make them wrong. So that's where you have to be really careful and what you say to them so they're not wrong.
Don't damage that fragile male ego, right, men? We don't like that. Don't smash on our ego. That can cost you the deal in a hurry. That's great. Great advice on that, Laura. I see Melvin, you wanted to add something to that?
Yes. When you were talking about
Los Angeles in the house.
There you go. Yeah. So when you was talking about the the payment, the interest rate, that is. I was driving, so I didn't get a chance to chime in. But what I use for that, I liked all the answers that we got. What I like to use for that is if a person, let's say that the difference between like a 4% interest to a 7% interest is maybe about $300 or $400 a month. So I will find out how much are you getting back on your tax returns. And so if they say that their tax returns, they're getting about 8,000 to 10,000. So I would tell them, maybe talk to your accountant. You can increase your exemptions and have more money coming back on your check that will offset that $400 payment. And so that tends to work a lot. And then in reference to the Zillow, I have a client, I list a property, and she told me that she felt that the property is worth 1.2 million based on Zillow. And I comped it out around 900,000, and I had 4 comps. So the only thing I needed to do is just show her the comps that's in the area and let her know you don't want to overprice your property because it's just going to sit there. The goal is the first 2 weeks to get the property sold. And if you overprice it, you're going to be like these properties that I'm showing properties that's still on the market that are overpriced, and they've been in the market for 30, 60, 90, 120 days. And then so they kind of see the light. They don't want to just have the house sitting there. And if it's really that much, then you're going to have a ton of people that's going to be making offers and going to probably get up to that point, get into like a bidding type situation. But for the most point, we want to be right at the market value on that.
Love it, Melvin. So $1 million home in LA, is that about 600 square feet? Is that what we're doing there right now for out there in LA? Awesome, man. Great answer on that, Bert. Alex, let's hear from you, man.
Yeah. So I was going to say, Melvin, you were talking about comps, a great tool. Ask your sellers if they want to go look at the active comps that fall into these like price sections. So like if your client that thought they were 1.2, go find something for 1.2 and run them through it. If they're 300,000 shy of that, are they ever going to know fast? And then you could just ask them, do you think you compare to the house that we just walked through? Or how do you feel you compare to the house you just walked through? And let them tell you, well, you know what? You're actually right. Bring them through a 900, bring them through an 850. I love the idea of active comps. And oftentimes, because you get the whole narrative of, is something stuck? Is it going to sell? Has it fallen out of escrow? Why is it sitting there? And you can put that together. Let your seller be an active participant in the game. Like, that's as good as it gets.
By the way, a public service announcement. Thank you, Alex. That's awesome. I think that is great. Social proof is huge, right? See, feel, touch, smell, especially smell sometimes, right? But from listing agents everywhere, this is a public service announcement. Please, 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 when you do your feedback, say the house was too small for the price. The house was blah, 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 blah for the price. It will help listing agents get price reductions and maybe even help get your buyer back into the house. But always give your objection that your buyer has on the house for the price. And it'll help listing agents get price reductions, because when those start to add up on all those feedbacks, that helps with that. Kim Campbell, you want to add to, we're going to get to your objection because it's an awesome one. We're going to cover that. But you have something to add to this price reductions on listings, trying to get people to be more realistic on the price for sellers.
Piggyback on Alex, you know, what I usually do even back then was when I go to the house, I plug my computer up, you know, and we work on it together. We were talking and, you know, literally this is when internet was, you know, you're going to plug your computer in. Literally, I mean, I have to, you know, show them exactly, because we tell them and then we show them, and then I'm like, look at this, and we look at this. So we're not just telling them, because telling them is in the head, showing them is in the eye and everything. So I just want to, you know, piggyback on what Alex was saying. Nowadays, bring, you know, our hotspot and bring your computer, show all the comps to them right then and there. So, and then they say, what about that? Well, let's take a look at this together. That's exactly what Alex did. And that's exactly how I train all of our agents to do, to not only tell the seller what it is or the buyer what it is, like, oh, you want to buy $500,000 home in $1 million neighborhood. Instead of telling them the $1 million neighborhood, you show them like, oh, you want to be in Turnberry or you want to be wherever. Oh, let's take a look at it now. And then right then and there, they visually say, oh, okay, I guess I should, you know, of course, lower the price, lower my expectation. And of course, what I want in my house is way too high. I need to lower that. So just by showing them, good job, Alex. Awesome.
Beautiful. I love it. Show and tell, baby. That's what we're doing. I love that. I love it. Love it. So anybody want to add anything to this before we move on? I got two other great objections in the chat that are very relevant to right now that we want to move on to. But before we leave this topic of price reductions, anybody got anything they want to add? Tips, tricks, hints, anything like that? If not, we're going to move on. Let's go to the next one. I see in the chat, Sarah Thomas, ST, she's got on there. Well, I don't want to list my home until I find a new home. So we're seeing that happen a lot, right? Because sellers know the house is going to sell right away, and then they're going to be homeless and not be able to find something. So we'll start Laura first to kind of get things going and work our way through. I don't want to list my home until I find a new home.
Yep, we're hearing that a lot. And some are still not listing, you know, even with your objection handlers, and some are not going to, but obviously they're not motivated anyway, like Alex had said earlier, you know, working with motivated people. But a couple things that we're saying is I use the feel, felt, found script a lot. So I understand exactly how you feel. I've had many clients that have felt exactly the same way. And then here's what they found out. They're out there putting in offers on homes and they can't get anything because sellers aren't taking contingencies these days. They don't have to. There's multiple offers. So as perfect of a world as that sounds, and I would love to do that for you, it's pretty unlikely we're going to get you a house. But there's other things we can do. We can get your house on the market. We can get you a lot of time after closing, because people are giving into 30, 60, 90 days for sellers to stay in the house after closing until you find something. And I tell them, I haven't had anybody homeless yet, but in case you are, you can use my basement. I always use that line. And it's
I love adding the humor in there with that and the solutions. So not only did you feel, felt, found them, but then you listed, here's the solutions as to why we're not going to have you be homeless. And then you threw some humor in at the end to lighten it up, to put you back on their side. They have to feel like you're advocating for them on their side. I love it, Laura. I love it. Alex, you want to jump in there and go ahead?
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people have the perception of the buying power that people have are driven off a number that you've calculated based on the current market conditions. And when this stuff drags out, like we have one client right now that I think I'm 3 months into the search with, and I stood in a living room with him yesterday and I said, we're running all these calculations about with your affordability relative to a price that I gave you 90 days ago. I said, and I'm not going to tell you that your house is worth 5% more or 10% more than that, because I don't necessarily control that. The market does. But if you would put your house on the market, you would get all the answers to the buying test that you guys want. You'll have you'll know how much money you have for projects. You'll know how much money you have to do additional things in the house, or you'll know how much you don't. And so there's that option. And then the other thing I've told people is we could find you more expensive houses that have more of what you want, that have sat on the market longer, and we could go the route of a contingent offer. And I will try that with you. Or we can list your house with the caveat that this is contingent upon the seller finding, or the buyer finding, or seller finding suitable housing within 60 to 90 days. And that's risky from our perspective because it's a lot of work and a lot of heartache. But once people find something and they get into go mode, it always seems to work itself out.
Love it, love it, love it. There's also out there solutions where there's companies that will buy their house from them and basically buy them, give them their cash so they can go in as a non-contingent offer, find the place they want, and they just basically rent it back from the place until that place takes it and sells it. But you're going to get less money for it, for the convenience, right? There's options out there like that too. That was piggybacking off of Laura, giving them solutions to it. Alex, so some power words in there. You called it a buyer test. Is that what you called that? Describe that one more time, because I'm old and I forget stuff quick. The buyer test.
Yeah, so it's just the conversations that you have with them when you're standing in, because when you start to get to these points, you're out looking at houses and you know, you start to ask the questions. I don't want to sell my house till I find something. And oftentimes, if they're going to $10,000, $25,000, $50,000 is the difference in affordability to what people can do. you just tell them, hey, why don't we try to put your house on the market? Ultimately, you'll gain more knowledge of what you're trying to do. And so people are trying to do this based on our best guess as professionals. But if you let the market talk, you're losing it. And thinking my client, and I tell them, I said, you're losing out on houses that you think are selling for an extra 15 to 25,000 every single day. What makes you think you're not going to get that when you sell your house? And so if you want the answers to the test, put your house on the market and get them. And then you could go be a more effective buyer. I also had a client who wouldn't put their house on the market, and a team member came up to me and said, Alex, I have a buyer that your listing checks all the boxes. Would you sell it off market? And I said, let me call my client. And I added a premium to the listing. We sold it off market and essentially forced my client out because we gave them a number they couldn't refuse. And they said, this is awesome. This gives us an additional $100,000 of affordability to go buy a house that we want to be in longer term after the property closes. We didn't have to go through the pain of prepping our house. We didn't have to go through the heartache of showings. We showed it one time, we got a premium, and we're out of here. I'm a hero, and my team member is a hero for her agent. And now our buyer frees up additional equity to go buy a better long-term product for them, opposed to trying to squeeze in on a budget into something that's not even a good fit for them.
Love it, love it, love it. So we were talking about, we're going to move on to another objection I want to get to, which is a big one, I think, as the agent counts are climbing, right? We're seeing more and more people get into real estate. You know, the ease of selling homes over the last few years have been sort of artificial, right? So people saw it and people got in and not knowing that you're actually going to have to work to be a realtor to make some money. They just thought you stick a sign in the yard, you get multiple offers, and you get a big fat giant 5-figure check. Let's talk about this. The person you're talking to, whether it's a buyer or seller, they have somebody else who's a realtor. It's a family member. It's their pastor's wife's Pizza Hut delivery driver. It's somebody who they know who's also a realtor, right? That NAR says, National Association of Realtors says that the average person knows 16 realtors by first name, 16 realtors. So we'll start with that. Laura, we're going to start with you to get everybody juiced up on this one, but this should be a good one. What are your best tips, tricks, one-liners, objection killers for somebody who already knows another realtor?
Yeah, that's a biggie. We do hear that a lot. And it's can be a little sensitive. I think sometimes, especially when in an open house, they tell you that so you don't bug them. So usually, especially if I'm at an open house, I'll say, oh, great. You know, I've been around for a long time. What's their name? Maybe I know them. And so I'll ask that first, just to kind of smoke them out a little bit. And then I'll say, listen, I can appreciate that. You know, I appreciate the loyalty. I respect that in you. You know, I get that. But, you know, I'm just kind of curious. I know sometimes people really don't want to work with family or friends because if this thing goes sideways, you don't want to jeopardize that relationship, you know, and are they really going to be honest with you? Where I'm a third party, I'm going to be totally honest with you. And I'm not emotionally involved like they are in the transaction, so that I think I'd be able to handle it with a little bit more ease because I'm not so vested as they would be. And sometimes I think they're not always giving you the true facts because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And so I think working with a third party really makes it much easier for you. Would you agree? And I usually try to do a lot of tie downs. That's definitely something I do in my objection handling is I do a lot of tie downs. Would you agree? Does that make sense? You know, that type of a thing. So then they have to answer that just to kind of give them that food for thought of, uh-oh, I might jeopardize that relationship.
Hard conversations are a lot easier to have with a professional that you are not related to. We always had what we call the naked rule when it comes to business. And that always catches their attention. We say that the naked rule. I said, you've heard the naked rule, haven't you? And they're like, no, the naked rule, how does that work? Well, the naked rule works like this. You should never really go into business with somebody that has either seen you naked or that you've seen naked, because that can cause problems. You are way too close for that. And it always gets everybody to laugh, just like what happened out here in the gallery. It gets people laughing on that. And it breaks the ice on that because they're waiting for you to come back with the objection killer. And I kill it with humor first and get it going with that. And then I love how you did that, Laura. You bring them onto your side. You're empathizing with them and you complimented them, a sincere compliment. I appreciate your loyalty. I think that's awesome. How about Alex or Stephanie or Drew? Somebody want to throw in there? Kim, hey, so-and-so's a realtor. What do you do with that when you're working with the person or trying to work with the person? Go ahead, Kim. You're unmuted. Or Alex, go ahead.
So on listing, when I walked in and I gathered a lot, and when I get that, I always like, look, I understand. I hear you. So let me get this objection straight. Are you trying to get your home sold and you want to sell it in 3 months, right? And they say, usually, like, yeah. I'm like, so are you trying to get your home sold? Or are you trying to do your, family a favor? Which one is it? And I shut up, just like Lori said. And most of the time I let them sit there and think about it. And I'm just looking at them, have my notebook and my listing and just wait.
I'm noticing a trend here with a lot of it is that a lot of the objections are being answered with a question. Questioning for clarification, digging deeper, as Alex said, is boring down into it. Stephanie, you're unmuted. Go for it.
I'll first disclose that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? But that's okay. I'm comfortable.
Cup of bourbon, maybe, Stephanie, maybe, definitely everybody's cup of bourbon.
But whenever anyone tells me, such and such is my sister, brother, whatever the case might be, I always kill them with kindness. Oh, Kim Ha is so sweet. She is the nicest realtor. When I come in contact with her and do a deal, I love it. I like cheer when she's that listing agent because I know how easy she is. I know how I can just come in and control the situation. And I love it because she is the sweetest person ever. She always wants to make sure that, so what I'm doing is I am complimenting Kim because she is the sweetest person. But at the same time, without saying it, I'm telling them I'm going to eat her for lunch. So would they rather have the lion or would they rather have the realtor that's their sister that Stephanie Gilezan's going to eat for lunch? Right?
I love it. I thought you were going to say, would you rather have the lion or the little baby bunny? You calling Kim a baby bunny there on that.
I never want to insult the other person. You got to do it carefully because you don't want to be you never want to say, oh, she gets her listings because she badmouths. No, I tell the truth. Kim is sweet as can be. I love it when I see her.
That is great.
Whether it's true or not, just think the line.
Kim's the lion. Kim's the lion.
Because
the
Stephanie
Jedi
and I know,
tricks these ladies are running. It's crazy.
I know, right? I'll be like, yeah, oh my God, Stephanie's amazing. And guess what? She have like thousands of listings and I have 2. Guess who's be babysitting? I'm that sweet girl that babysit your listing, get it sold in 3 months. And Stephanie, she get thousands of listings. She probably won't even know that you're selling your home. So when we get it sold, you can tell it her.
That's great. I love it. I love it. Allison, do you want to throw something in there? I saw you unmute a second ago. You want to throw something in on this one?
We should role play, Stephanie.
There's too much power woman. I
want to hear from Drew
going on in here.
I want to hear from Drew.
Yeah, and Alex unmuted, or Drew, go for it.
John wanted to hear from me, so I just asked the people: is there a specific reason why you've used such and such from Remax throughout the years? Well, yeah, it's my wife's aunt, and there'd be a lot of drama at Christmas if we didn't use her. And so, oh, okay. Well, if you didn't have to use them, would you refer business to me? Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that comes across my desk, or I'll keep you in mind. So that's happened so many times to me where maybe they don't buy or sell with me, but if I can get referrals from that person, you just never know. So I think it's continue to market to them and on the automated, touches each month, and continuing to be friends with everybody, because you never know when Aunt Patty from Remax is going out of business, you can be right there to swoop in on their personal business as well.
I love it. Everybody knows at least 5 people that will buy, sell, or invest in real estate in the next 6 months, every person. So that's great. Wait, that's Drew, that's a way to think bigger than just right there, the see ball, get ball. You were looking outside it. That was awesome. Alex, throw in.
Yeah, so extension of Drew's conversation, my insurance agent's a really good friend of mine, and he was in my wedding, and he was having a hard time buying a house, and because Aunt Pam was the one showing him properties, and every time Aunt Pam told him to buy a house, they couldn't get over the hump. There was something that got in the way that wedged the deal, that the deal went sideways with somebody else. So I just asked him straight up, why are you losing on these deals? Like, let's just sit down and talk about it. I said, I want to help. I would rather you get a house. Don't worry about me. Tell me what's going on. Alex, here's the problems. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, cool. Here's how I would handle it. Here's what can be helpful. Try to relay this to Aunt Pam so you can get a house. Don't worry about me. I don't care about me. You got to get yourself a deal. We got to get you in a house. Sure enough, I get a call the day after his wedding that I went to, and he said, we fired Aunt Pam, Alex. It's never going to get anywhere. You're the guy. I said, here's a property I would go look at today. Let's go look at it. He bought it. Him and I become better friends ever since. And the constant joke now when we go look at properties is, what do you think Aunt Pam would say about this house? And we've become better friends because of it. And look, like the goal was like, look, it's, of course we all want to get the business, but the goal is to help people in the long term. That's what you want to do. You want to help your client. You want to help your friends because they remember those things. They remember that you didn't go at their throat to say, you got to use me. You got to use me. You got to use me. And if you play this game to build a business over the life and a career, that person's going to move 5, 6, 7 times. And then they're going to know how many people that are going to move. So you may not get the first time they move and it may go to Aunt Pam. But can you get the other 7 deals over the next 15 years that are going to pay you $113,000 in fees? Those are more important than the first one.
Love it, love it, love it. We're wrapping up here towards the end. Great job by all the panelists. Just for everyone who's on here, just so you know, we will be posting this to our YouTube channel. John's going to put it down in the chat box for us of what the name of the YouTube channel is, where it's going to be posted. We do these every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. We have topics. We like to kind of keep it focused on a topic. So if you have a topic and you're somebody out there who's an expert at something in real estate, we'd love to hear from you. Whoever invited you on here, let them know. Maybe we can get you on to be a panelist or discuss something, a topic that you have. Next week's topic is, whoever knows what that, please unmute and tell us what next week's topic is going to be.
Niching your business.
Riches and niches, baby. Niching your business, or niche. If you're from the west side of Cleveland like me, we call it the niche, a special niche up there. No, we say the word crick for C-R-E-E-K. So no, that's not us in Cleveland on that. So that's going to be great. There are riches and niches, and that's going to be awesome for you to specialize. The highest paid people in the medical industry are specialists. The highest paid people in the legal industry are specialists. So we'll be covering that. John, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I said invite a friend.
Invite a friend, invite a couple of friends. We loved all the participation we had today from everybody. A little round of applause for our panelists. They did awesome today. Great stuff. Laura just posted in the chat a link for the Google Drive for a doc that she had that will help you. Laura, you want to describe what that document is before we jump off?
Yeah, I just found this online and I thought it was good because it really kind of isolates down how to handle an objection, not using the words, but different techniques. So I thought that was kind of helpful. So I threw it in the chat for everybody to go ahead and print that out.
Beautiful. So you can click on that. And for those of you who do want to download the chat, there's 3 dots down there in the chat box. Click that and it'll give you the chance up at the top there to save the chat as a file to your computer. But I want to thank all of our panelists for jumping on again next Thursday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. And we do record them. But here's the thing. You're not going to watch the recording. No one does. You probably have 100 videos stacked up in your email inbox of videos that you're supposed to watch. So just time block it out. Jump in, work on your business, not just in your business. We thank everybody for jumping on. Great stuff. And we will see all of you very, very soon. Have a great one, everybody.